feature garage anthems from yesteryear and bring interviews of some of the big names in the UKG scene. One segment of the show is dedicated to homegrown talent. So whether you're a budding MC, a producer, singer, or promoter, this show provides a platform for you to share your work. Flirt UKG with Lee Castle the third Saturday of every month from 8 to 10 p.m. on iLive Radio. Be there.
The internet's number one on the World Wide Web. iLive Radio.
Hey everyone, I'm Kat K. Mills and you're listening to iLive Radio. This is More to Mom, the show that celebrates everything about her. With whining, crying, tantrums, and drama, our kids get plenty of airtime. More to Mom is the show that gives the women behind all those beautiful babes a voice, with a chance to chat about all the things that interest her. Today we're taking a look at unconventional hobbies. And we're sitting with our guest, Emeline Mellow. If I could say you could combine your love for working out with your love for getting glammed up and getting into the spotlight, how would you feel about combining all of those into one pursuit? That's exactly what our guest today, Emeline Mellow, does as a professional fitness model competitor.
Thank you.
Emeline, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Very happy to be here this morning. Hello, iLive family.
So a lot of people may have absolutely no idea what that means when you say you compete professionally as a fitness model.
Yeah.
So describe for us what exactly you do.
Well, it all begins with deciding to compete. So for most of you who know me, I am a WBFF pro, and I have been competing since 2013, which is my very first show. And when we say that we're competing for a show, there are a number of events that happen throughout the world now that the federation has evolved nationally. And when we compete, we decide to compete whether it's our local event or a local show in our own province or our own state. I've competed through at the Worlds, which is the WBFF Worlds Competition 2013. That was my very first show. And we'll be competing in August. And when we say compete, it really means going through the process of preparing to get on stage and getting your body in the most optimal state of performance in terms of physique, and then displaying that all of that work on stage for the judges and for all of course, your friends and family to see, and to basically showcase all the work and dedication that you've put into to getting ready for stage. So how could it compare to something like a typical bikini contest that maybe, mainstream people are used to seeing, at a bar or a beach or something like that? What's the difference? Very different. So when we talk about competing, at the end of the day, we are athletes. And so there are different categories, and we focus, and depending on the category, you're focusing on different judging criteria. So from a bikini perspective, you are judged more on your overall beauty, your tone and your physique and your appearance and your marketability. As a Diva fitness model, we bring a sense of poise and style and confidence and glamour to the stage. And so if you think of it, when you watch your Victoria's Secret models, Diva to me is what screams out. It's when they're on stage, but we add a little bit more of physique to that category. So the judges are looking for tone, looking for symmetry, and they're looking for poise and style and glamour, a little bit of sexiness as well at the same time. And we do that by carrying ourselves on stage, our stage presence. Of course, our beauty is part of the process. And then, of course, there's a theme wear component. And as you know, when you watch the Victoria's Secret models and how they strut down the stage with those beautiful costumes, we get to do that as well. But our bodies tend to accentuate and bring that sense of glamour and style on the stage. So you're being judged on the physique as opposed to the costume. Exactly. Like you would in Victoria's Secret, let's say. Exactly. So just touching on that end of it, what types of costumes have you worn for that? So my very first show was in 2013, and basically you're on a budget. So of course I was an amateur. Sure. So I remember doing my research and looking up some of the professional models, and of course, the one that came to mind was Andrea Brazier, who was the ultimate WBFF diva and champion. So I looked at her costumes and I thought, okay, and it reminded me much of what we would wear during Caravana.
Okay.
Or Carnival. So what I did for the very first year was find a band leader here in Toronto and showed him videos and images of other pro fitness models because I wanted to go with a carnival theme wear. And that's exactly what I wore for 2013. And then previous, I guess, competitions, I've gone with a almost Roman goddess type of look. And so for this year, top secret, but my costume, my theme wear, is going to be designed by the great Alex Davey. And so that's a secret. I've told a couple of people what it looks like, but she's going to be doing my theme wear this year. So can't say too much about it.
Oh, for sure. You can't spoil the show yet, right?
No.
So we have to wait all the way till August to find out.
That's right.
So getting back to the preparation a little bit. So you absolutely train your butt off in the gym preparing for it.
Yes, I know.
You get your suits ready, you're wearing a bikini, you're going on stage, and then you're strutting your stuff in your costumes and things like that.
Yeah.
What's the typical reaction you get when you tell people what you do or when they see what you do?
Yeah. So outside of competing and preparing to compete, I'm an IT professional. So I've been working in the IT field for 17 years. So it's a very conservative
For sure.
corporate environment.
You're not an IT person.
I'm an IT diva. I do both. Oftentimes I get jokes that I should be in marketing or fashion.
Right,
I'm like,
right.
no, I'm in IT and I like it. I like being an IT kind of diva geek. But it's funny that when I do tell people what I do, the reaction is always positive. There's been a couple of instances where I was actually in the market looking for work. And so I had to be a little bit more sensitive in terms of what images were out there.
Sure.
Because if you're a recruiter from HR and you're looking at my name and see me in a bikini, be like, I'm not sure if she's good representation for our brand.
Right.
But for the most part, the reaction has always been good. And in fact, my fellow colleagues tend to take interest in what it is that I'm doing. They're very encouraging. Last year when I went to Vegas, the rally of support was great, was fantastic, and even this year. So I have more of my work colleagues following me on Instagram and Facebook and asking me once in a while, how are things going? Right. They'll make subtle jokes when they see me eating my egg whites and my oats and my raspberries in the middle of a meeting, and they all understand.
Sure.
But to most of them, it's they encourage me. It's very positive. I haven't had any negative instances or remarks said about what it is that I do.
Well, so let's talk about that a little bit. So you work in a professional environment in an office doing IT. How do you fit this into your lifestyle? Because it's a lot of the training is really demanding, the nutrition is demanding. So how do you make that work?
So by trade, I'm a project manager.
So you've got it organized. It's under control.
You've got it organized. If this is a project. It is demanding, but everything is about time management. And I am, because it's not my full-time job, I don't have the luxury of deciding when I'm going to be training certain clients or training my clients around my schedule. So at the end of the day, I have a business need to fulfill. I have clients that I have to serve. So at the end of the day, they are the priority. So everything that I do revolves around my work. And so if Coach PK is listening, we went back and forth in terms of how much or when I should be training. And I struggled with training in the mornings because when you get home from work, the day doesn't end at 5. When you come home from work, you flip open the laptop, and chances are you have another 2 or 3 hours of emails and things to get done because you're in meetings all day. So
the dreaded meetings.
This is what it is. And for those of you who are in the corporate world can certainly understand, when you have meetings, work happens after work. So I finally turned around and decided to follow Coach's suggestion. And now I'm on the 5 o'clock a.m. wake up time, and I absolutely love it. But what that means is everything is about getting up at 5, having the pre-workout meal, getting to the gym on time, finishing, doing the cardio so I can get into the shower, into the car, and into the office to start the day. and having the lunch bag packed. So that when I come home from work, all I have to do is maybe flip on my laptop and then be in bed by 9:30. So it's a regimented schedule.
Very regimented, yeah.
Very.
So do you think there's a certain personality type who gets involved in these types of competitions? Because it is so demanding.
Yeah.
It is so regimented. Not everyone necessarily
Can do it.
can jump into that or have the discipline for it.
I would say anyone who is deciding to compete, everyone is committed, everyone is disciplined, everyone is focused, and everyone has the goal to compete and compete successfully. There are some athletes or women that I have met that I just want to try this. I just want to do this as a reward to myself. Right. And then there are those that are determined to reach the highest level of achievement in a sport that they love, which is what my goal is. Mm-hmm. So I love what I do 9 to 5, but for me, to be able to be in this sport, you have to exhibit certain disciplines. And so the mindset, as Coach Gaetan and PK has often said, you have to have those fundamentals there. And because I have been in the weight room since I was 16, and I've been driven to do certain things with my body, that has helped propel me to where I am today. So I would think being committed, being focused, being dedicated, being organized, pushing past the pain, and just digging in deep is the type of personality traits that one would have to have if you're going to compete, male or female.
And what about that background? So you refer to it as a sport.
Yeah.
Some people who aren't familiar with it may not see that when they just show up at the competition and see women in the bikinis and the costumes and looking gorgeous on stage. They're thinking, you're just beautiful model, right?
But no, there's a lot of work, and I have to say, when we are on stage and our makeup is done and our hair is done and we're glammed up and the tan is sprayed and we have our bikini, that for us is the reward. Because no one is seeing, if they're following us on Instagram, they might be seeing it, or Snapchat, but no one is seeing the hours of work and the ups and downs and the injuries that we have all had to endure to get to that day. So yes, we look glamorous, we look fantastic, and it looks like we're just beautiful women or beautiful men, and we naturally look this way. And it's easy just to get up and go on stage and walk the walk. But there is months and months and months of hours of work that goes into it. And then there's the eating part afterwards that no one sees. Right. Or some of us see.
Unless they're in your meeting with you.
Unless they're in my meetings. So it's a lot of work, and but you get to see the fruit of that labor on stage day.
So what is that training like for you, the preparation, the training? What goes into that? What type of training are you doing?
So luckily, I have been blessed with a fantastic coach. And typically you have, and there are some, I guess, different theories about off-season and on-season, if there is such a thing as off-season. But for example, for last year, my off-season, I worked with Coach PK Mills, and he put me through a different type of preparation, which was hiking up the calories. Mm-hmm. So in previous competitions, this is probably the first competition or contest prep in an off season where I've eaten so much food.
And how was that?
Oh, it was a lot of food. And I don't complain about eating food, but there was a lot of food last year. Not complaining, PK. So after that period of off season, and then when we started getting into contest prep, and I realized when I saw the gains in the legs, especially in the legs, just overall, I realized, okay, this is what true off-season means. So in the off-season, we tend to focus on your focus areas. So for most women, it's building the quads or building the glutes. For some, it's the back or the shoulders. But it's really more or less cardio in my case, and a lot of heavy lifting, lots of food and calories. And then you slowly migrate into the season prep or prep season. And for me, that's when he starts introducing the cardio. And now I'm into 4 or 5 weeks out. So the diet does change. He pulls back the calories, which is what he's doing right about now. So I'm having some issues, but we won't talk about that in too much detail.
You're not hangry now, are you?
No, I just finished my post-workout meal and looking at the clock for my next meal. The cardio is going to get intense. So I looked at my program for next week, and it is going to get intense. But that's when we start to carve and to start constructing that shape that we're going to present on stage day. The intensity is a little bit, I wouldn't say a little bit, but it's a little bit, it is a little bit. It's quite intense. I'm trying to downplay it. It's quite intense, and especially in the mornings, because that's the first thing you're doing as opposed to the end of the day.
A lot of people are just, grabbing a muffin and a coffee and going
to
work, right?
Not me. I'm only getting a tablespoon of almond butter, and that's it with the protein shake. So that's really what's happening right about now. So it's an entire season of different moments in your training prep where you're doing different activities to perform and to get different types of results. So.
And what's the nutrition like? I know the nutrition's demanding. So in terms of how you incorporate your meals all day, you said you're in an office all day.
Right.
So how do you make sure you can fit all that into your day? A lot of people would say, oh, there's no way I can do this. I work in an office. How on earth would I eat the way I'm supposed to eat?
So what I've decided to do is outsource. That's an IT term. But I've outsourced my meal prep. Because I never appreciated my rest days, which are on Sundays. Mm-hmm. And I had a number of medical issues in the beginning of the year. And so I just wanted to have that taken care of.
For sure, yeah.
So all of my meals are prepped. And the meals are a balance of true natural food. So there is nothing in my plan. Even my supplements are very minimal. And everything is wholesome food. Of course, I'm having my one shake, which is a supplemental shake by Sun Warrior. Not that it's a plug, but everything is really just your brown rice, your sweet potato, your egg whites, your oats, sugar-free almond milk, your raspberries, apples, and I think I've just and whitefish. Mm-hmm. So cod and halibut has been the base, and that's all that I have been eating since September, October, and then of course in different variations and portions.
And some people might find that really limiting when they first hear that. But how does it actually make you feel physically? Like, because you're fueling your body with natural things, good things, like.
So I feel absolutely fantastic in the morning because when I get up, and I haven't overloaded my Instagram with my photos, but trust me, when I get up in the morning and I look at the lines that are coming in, I feel fantastic. It's at night when I come home from work and there's that tub of almond butter that's staring at me, or we're driving past my favorite West Indian restaurant and I want oxtail and rice and peas and I can't have it. So if I had to do the trade-off, I feel fantastic once I eat it. And once I know that this is going to bring me closer to my goal, then those thoughts of I'll just sneak in this or I'll just have this goes away. I mean, in the office oftentimes you get tempted because there's a pizza day or there's something going on, or they're putting
birthday cake at 4:00.
They're putting treats on your desk at work. So you're like, you have those moments, but at the end of the day, you realize I've just spent 2.5 hours this morning at 5:00 doing all of this work. Am I really going to have that piece of cake? Wouldn't that be counterproductive? So you make the decisions, and hence why I go back to the question about being committed and dedicated and focused. I didn't get up at 5 a.m. to have this cheesecake and then undo all the work that I did, 7 or 8 hours ago. Right. So. But I'm human, and I have those moments where I don't want to eat dry cod.
Sure.
And 2 cups of greens with no dressing. That's insane.
But you're putting your stage goals ahead of the enjoyment.
Exactly.
Of food.
Yeah.
So what happens after the show? Do you get to indulge in something? How long do you sort of spend on that moment?
So after the show, so I used to suffer from candida, which is a digestion issue. And I was cured from that working with several naturopaths. So I've been forced to always eat clean. I've never had the luxury of eating a tub of ice cream and not suffering later in the bathroom. So in the previous contests, the next day, I've typically had either salmon with sweet potato and that wonderful aioli dip. That's my cheat right there. But for me to go and have a hamburger and fries or ice cream or cookies or cake, that's never happened. But Coach has put me on a off-season kind of, if you would say, to kind of decontest you. So after the contest, there's a regiment of things you should be eating and not be eating. And so for this year, we're probably going to follow that same regime where they'll be increasing the water intake, slowly introducing the carbs. I'm not going to have a plate of Chinese food with all the sodium. That doesn't make any sense. And then slowly get back into a routine, going back into the gym. Because when you think about it, on contest day, your body's in the most optimal state of performance. And it's a good stress, but there's a lot of things that are going on. And so to go from that level and then all of a sudden go home and say, okay, I'm going to get up in the morning and have a coffee and bagel and go to work on Monday, that would be quite shocking to the system. So the smart coaches would provide an off season or I guess I'm not even sure what the term would be but after the contest is how do you get your body back to a normal state of homeostasis so that you can continue to train normally and eat the foods that you want to 80% of the time or 20% of the time and have your cheat day, but without messing around with your metabolism and keeping all the work that you've achieved over the last 6 to 8 months.
Well, you'd say at this point it's a lifestyle, right? Like once you're at a certain level,
yes.
it's not.
Yeah, you don't go back
training for a day.
No,
that's how you are.
No. And unfortunately, there are some athletes that are fairly new to the sport, and so they don't realize the damage that is done of getting your body to that optimal state of performance, and then coming off the stage and then stuffing your face with cookies and cake and ice cream and chocolate. It's quite enormous as to what you can do to your system, and so if you find the right coach, they will stress the importance of what it means to come off the stage, and how to get your body back into that normal state.
Yeah, because that's a big amateur mistake.
It's a big amateur mistake that some amateurs make, and then some of us who have not.
So let's talk about that a little bit, the difference between amateur and professional. So you're a professional
I am
competitor
a professional, yes.
versus the amateur. So what types of experiences or what are you getting to do differently than the amateurs are?
So most, I'll go back to the professionals. So most of the professionals, and I don't want to stereotype, but most of them are actually models. So they are actual models. They have a quite an extensive portfolio, but and that's one side of it from a marketability perspective. But then being a pro, there's a level of maturity, a level of presence, a level of class and poise and confidence and style that comes with the title. So you can win in your category, but not demonstrate the professional or the pro status that the federation wants you to achieve, and that comes with that title. And so for me, I'm a professional. As an amateur, it just means that you haven't reached that state. So you can win, for example, first place as a pro, but there's certain standards that they're looking for in order for you to be awarded that level. And so once you've achieved that level of pro status, you sign the certificate and you're able to carry that with you in terms of how you compete. So the categories are different. And of course, there's the physique component as well. So if you are an amateur and you're trying to get your pro status, there are certain physique things that the judges will be looking for. So it's a combination of the ability to carry the brand as a professional, and of course competing on stage from a physique and a competition level.
What about compensation rewards? Does that differ for amateurs and pros? Are you earning something different, or?
So in the if I were to say, so in Canada and in the States, and now we're global, or the WBFF is now global. There are different types of shows. So you have the World, which is happening here in Toronto. And then you have your local shows. Like we used to have the Pro-Am show in Montreal. That's now been moved to Los Angeles. And so when you win your pro status, there is not a monetary award. However, there is a larger award at the World. So in my previous shows, for me, it was about just getting that certificate, and saying that I'm now a pro.
Right.
And the desire, in my case, I guess it's an expensive sport or hobby, if I want to call it that. It's very expensive. But because of what I do, it affords me to compete. So for me, the focus really isn't on being monetary compensated. It's basically to say that I earn this, that I've done this, and I've achieved the highest level of accomplishment in the sport that I absolutely love. So the focus for me has never been on winning, or getting on front of a magazine cover or getting sponsored per se. I think it's a matter of looking at all of the images on my phone, looking at myself on stage day and saying, yeah, I brought the best package. So
it's that athletic mindset again of just achieving your best.
Exactly.
Physique.
That's it. And that's probably why I've been in the gym for so long, because I haven't got there yet. So.
Well, you're definitely there. I mean, people can't see a little bit here on YouTube, but you look fantastic.
Thank you.
And you're not 22.
No,
you're not 22, and you look amazing.
No, I'm not.
Let us know a little bit about the women who are competing, and people might have a misconception about that they're young girls, they're in their 20s. Who's getting on stage in their bikini and showing off these incredible bodies? We have girls that are on stage who are 18, who are coming out of university or going to college. We have women who are cancer survivors. We have women that are that just had children. We have women that are grandmothers. We have women where their children have left home and they've gone off to do what they need to do, and they want to do something for themselves. There's a cross breed of women. And so that's why I think, maybe 17 or 15 years ago, we always thought of the sport to be catered to those who are in the fitness industry only. And it is very encouraging to see the breadth of women who are now competing. You don't have to be a coach or have clients in the fitness industry to do what I'm doing. You can be career driven. I know specifically, I met my first career athlete, or professional woman who was an athlete, Christiane Moretti, if she's watching. And I met her at IBM, and she had 2 children, or she didn't have children at the time. She now does, and both her and her husband did the Ironman twice. Oh, wow.
So it just shows you can be a professional consultant and have children and train for an Ironman at the same time.
Right.
And you're seeing more of that where we have professional jobs and we do this on the side. It's not something that keeps us, economically. It's our source of income. This is what we do. So it's a crossbreed of women from all over the world. And it's fantastic. And on show day, we get to meet them all backstage.
Mm-hmm. And what's that like, the camaraderie? Like, are you making friends? People might think, it's catty. It's backstage of a model
absolutely
competition.
Not. And I thought it was in the beginning. That's what I expected in my very first show in 2013. Nothing of the sort. If anything, after the show, you'll get a whole bunch of friend requests.
Right.
And there's selfies. But at the end of the day, we are all professionals and we're athletes and we're competing against each other. So when you're prepping to go on stage at half an hour before, everyone's in their corner. We have our headphones on. We're trying to sneak and grab a mirror and practice our posing. There's the athlete's registration that happens a couple days prior. So during that time, there's camaraderie, there's pictures being taken, because we follow each other on Facebook, so we get to meet each other for the very first time. But the morning of, we're zoned out, or at least I know I'll be zoned out.
Right.
And the focus is making sure that you have taken the 9 months or 10 months of work and wrapped it all up, and you're able to execute and deliver. Now I'm talking IT terms again. But that's the whole point. So that morning, there's not a lot of cattiness. We're helping each other with our bikinis and our theme wear, making sure that our hair is okay, that we haven't lost an earring. But moments before you get on stage, everyone is in their own space, and we're all zoned in to do what we have to do.
And so what about that backstage prep? You're wearing a lot of costumes. There's a lot of things going on.
Yeah.
Any mishaps or, wardrobe malfunctions? Like, what's happening back there that you've ever witnessed in terms of bloopers or just...
I have not, to be honest, I have not witnessed a blooper in terms of theme wear. I know that some of the theme wear designers are allowed backstage to help their clients with their theme wear. But in the last 4 years that I have been competing, and if I needed help strapping something on, if it's a wrist or if it's putting on something on my back, I've had no issues asking a fellow athlete to come and help. Perfect, and likewise, I'd help them. Right. If there was an issue with their bikini, rising too high, you need to put that kind of sticky bikini bite on. And, so we're all helping each other, because when the organizer, the stage coordinator, we're screaming our names to get back and get lined up fairly quickly, we need to make sure that we're all ready to go. And so we never leave anyone behind. So no one gets left behind.
Amazing. Yeah. That's good. Great camaraderie. And just a great environment to have backstage.
It is. Like a little bit nerve-wracking, but in terms of camaraderie, it's fantastic.
Good. So how did you actually get into the sport? How did you find this? You said you've been training forever, since you were a teenager. And now you're not a teenager anymore. How did you find your way to competing? So
my story started when I was, I would say, 14, 15, and I was very, very thin, very skinny. My first part-time job was working at Kinney Shoes in Millwoods Town Center, Edmonton, Alberta. And there was a Kohl's bookstore next door. And I remember picking it up and just going through the pages. So I bought it right away, not knowing anything about bodybuilding.
A fitness magazine?
It was a book on bodybuilding, and I wish I had brought it with me, because I promised I'd bring it to my coach. But I remember going through the book and marking off some of the pages of the physiques that I wanted. And the focus for me was the legs, because I was tall, I was skinny, I was teased all the time about my pants never fitting because they were always too short. So I studied that, and then I joined this gym called Spa Fitness, or Spa Lady, which is a chain of women's gyms in Edmonton.
It sounds hardcore.
It was not hardcore. I mean, we had all the matching aerobic outfits, and So joined the gym when I was 16, and just made my own programs on the back of napkins, and would just train on my own. But taking a couple of years before that, I was also diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder called lupus. And I remember the hematologist at the time looking at me and saying, because of this disease, you cannot participate in any sports. And if anyone knows me, saying the word I can't is not a good idea. So I was kind of stubborn and ignorant, and that's what kind of taught me to get on this, getting in shape. And again, I was only 13 when I was diagnosed. Fast forwarding that to when I was 17, 18, and I would train on campus at the University of Alberta, and I got a lot of people would come up to me and say, "Are you a runner? Do you compete?" And I was only 18 at the time. Moved to Toronto in 1999, working for IBM, and then there was a Good Life at building 3500 on Steeles, and again, more and more people would approach me and ask me, "Do you compete? Do you compete?" And by then, from the time I've been training since I was 14 and now 16, and now I'm 27. So I've been putting in a lot of time into being in the gym. And it was at that time I realized maybe I should look into this. Right. So that's when I first heard about fame. And I started buying magazines like Oxygen and Shape magazine. And what attracted me about these women is they looked glamorous, model-esque, but they were athletes. Right. And because I've been tall and I did a little bit of modeling in Edmonton way back in the day, I liked the combination of being, of having that look. And so I continued to train on my own, didn't ask a lot of questions in terms of where to find a coach and how to get sponsored and so forth. But I was always curious. And in 2007, I wrote down in my little book that I wanted to compete.
Yeah.
And it never came to fruition. I'd mentioned it to a couple people here and there. And fast forward to 2012, hired my very first coach. I think I went to a competition out in Coburg, and then heard about this federation called the WBFF. Entered, decided I was going to do this. Didn't know anything about being on stage, so I'm now 41. Yes, I'm 41.
From that little girl who was 13, now 41.
I'm 41.
Stepping on
stage for the very first time. Went to Vegas and came in top 5 as an amateur in the world.
Amazing. So that was a pretty lofty goal. You couldn't have known at the time when you entered that you were going to do that?
No idea whatsoever. So that was the incentive to say, okay, I can do this. And I'm 41. That's okay. It's a late start, but we got to start somewhere. And here I am today.
But incredible inspiration for women who think, at a certain time, maybe that physical part has passed or something like that. But
no.
It's like you're just getting started in this professional world of modeling.
Yeah.
At your age now. So
yeah.
What was that experience like when you were on stage in Vegas at your first show and you realized you're in the top 5?
So the joke was I had no idea.
You didn't even know you were in the top 5.
No, so I specifically remember what happened because I didn't. So this is the thing about social media is I was so focused on training and I didn't know who the players were.
Right.
I didn't know who to look at and to compare myself to. It really was, I'm going to be on stage August 23rd, which is my birthday back in 2013.
That's a nice birthday surprise.
It was a birthday surprise. So I'm going to be flying to Vegas to compete. So all I knew was I had to have my walk down, I had to have my theme or my bikini, and I had to have this physique in top shape. So when I actually stepped on stage and then when they were doing the call outs, I didn't even really understand the call out process.
Right.
So
just explain a little bit to the listeners in case they're not familiar with what does that mean.
So
to be called out on
stage. Everyone has a badge or a competition number, and so one by one we step on the stage and we walk down the stage with our sense of style and poise, and for the judges to see us. And at the end of that process, all of the contestants are pretty much lined up beside each other, where the judges can do their comparisons. And so my name was called up for the first time, and so I stepped up with the group of 10. And they tend to move the contestants based on how they're ranking. So, and you're not paying attention to the crowd. You're just basically, okay, my name's called up. I need to step up stage and do what I have to do.
Trying to go in the right spot.
Trying to go in the right spot. And then they call you back again, from what I recall. But then they put you, depending on where they place you, to the audience, that basically said, okay, she's top 5 or top 10.
Right.
So when I came off stage, that's when it dawned on me that you this is your first time on stage, right, Emeline, and based on how you were ranked and how you were placed on stage, you're looking at top 5.
Right.
Had no clue.
Right.
Didn't know what that meant. Just knew. And I didn't go to Vegas to say I'm going to try it. Of course, I was doing it to do my very best, not thinking.
Right.
And that's exactly what happened. I was number 5.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Like most people don't get that experience their first time out.
Exactly.
It's usually a pretty big learning experience to be placed in the top contestants for your first time out.
I was quite excited.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you continued competing?
I continued competing. So the following year, I did the Montreal Professional Amateur Show, which was, I think it was April of 2014. And I came in first and second in my categories. And then 2 months later, I went to the Halifax Amateur Show, and that's when I earned my pro status.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. So you've been to a few different places competing.
Yes.
What do you see in the future down the line? Mm-hmm. Are there places you want to compete, or just at different shows you want to be competing at?
So now this is the part where we get back to balancing work life.
Right.
And If I had it my way, I would probably like to do 1 to 2 shows a year. But going back to my age, looking at the whole package, health-wise, the demands of work, I would probably limit myself just to 1 show. I love the Worlds, and I think it's the biggest and most glamorous show in the fitness industry. And for this year, it's here in Toronto. If I had it my way, I would probably continue to compete at the Worlds annually, and wherever it takes me. So if it's going to another part of the world, I'll be there. But to do more than 1 show a year, it really depends on how things are coming along, and that means from the work perspective, because it's a huge commitment. Because I also have career goals too. Right. So you gotta balance that as well.
So what goes into the commitment? We talked a little bit, about financial. It's a big financial commitment, or even your team. What kind of team do you have helping you get ready for this moment when you're on stage? My
biggest team, I would probably say, is more medically based. So as I mentioned before, being diagnosed when I was quite young with lupus, I'm willing to spend more money on finding my SWAT team. And that includes my naturopaths. I'm now working with Dr. Melissa Lee. So most of my, finances outside of the coaching and the nutrition and supplements goes to that. I don't have a sponsor per se, so I'm self-funding myself to the events or to these shows. And that's about it. So a big portion, I would say, there's the maintenance, of course, the physiotherapy and such, which I haven't been really good at this year. So I know PK. I'm going to get on it. I'm going to get on the massage. But
I know a couple people he's going to be recommending.
Yeah, I know. I'm already not that's the first person I'm going to think of. But I need to get on top of it. So the maintenance part, I know. But as far as the financial aspect of it, there's, of course, the theme wear. There's the bikini. In this case, travel is not a component because it's in my hometown, but then there's traveling to the country where what's going to be held, the hotel, the registration fees. It adds up. Right. So, yeah.
Are there other ways maybe that you've discovered with other athletes and things like that who, in order to pay for the competitions and this passion that people have to compete, sponsors are around or...
there is sponsorship, and you have to work for it. I think, with the way that social media, or the direction of social media nowadays, where it's going, there are different drivers to getting sponsored, and that's both from the sponsor itself and for you as an athlete. So you really have to market yourself. You really have to understand what's in it for the brand if they're going to represent you, and so that's critical, and that's quite key in terms of getting or landing a sponsorship deal. I haven't done that. I can't say that I've really put a lot of effort into marketing myself per se. I've been marketing myself in terms of being just an everyday career woman who has a fantastic hobby, or a conventional hobby. And that's been what I've been using as my driver to make the world know who I am. But it is something I will definitely put more effort towards. So I have 3 photo shoots lined up this year. I've never done any type of photo work. I never built a book since I've been starting. And this year I said, that's not happening.
Well, you do all that work, right? And then so at the end of it, you might as well capture it.
Yeah, so we're capturing it for sure this year. So there'll be some photos coming out fairly soon.
Good stuff. Yeah, people will be excited to see all of your hard work.
There'll be lots of work on camera.
Are you doing that right after the show?
Actually, I have 2 shoots before the show, and then I have 1 shoot the morning after.
Okay.
So I'm not going to say with who, but yeah.
You'll have that stuff. We'll see it soon.
You'll see it soon. Yeah.
So you compete with the WBFF, and that's where you're professional. There are a lot of organizations that promote these competitions. So what was the driving factor for you to choose WBFF?
Yeah.
And can you go back and forth in different organizations, or once you're somewhere, that's sort of where you stay?
So going back to Edmonton, and oodling over Tyra Banks and Naomi Campbell back in the day. I really wanted to become a model, right? So I did some modeling, not a lot, but some. And for me, that part of being a model was still a part of my decision to end up where I am right now. And if anyone has had a chance to go to watch an actual event, it is an event that's unlike any other event in terms of this industry. And I'm talking about the production of the shows. So my very first, I guess if you want to call it, bodybuilding show was in a gymnasium in Coburg. And I'm not knocking the Federation for hosting it there. But if I'm putting myself through all of this work, there's much more to an event than being in a community center or a gym. And the WBFF is nowhere near that. So other than it being televised, it's just the quality of the production. And there is no federation that is able to display its athletes the way that WBFF does. So hence why I'm able to watch a Victoria's Secret fashion show on television and say, yeah, our shows are just about at that level.
It mimics that. Yeah.
It mimics it, from the cameras to the lighting, to the way we are portrayed on stage day. So it has both the style, the glamour, and the athleticism that comes along with it. The physique, the level of presentation is unlike any other federation. So that's where I'm going to stay.
Yeah, and there's something different for everybody at all the federations, right? And why you might choose one versus another.
Yeah.
Where are you seeing people come from to compete? This is an international event that you'll be competing at.
That's correct.
So there's people coming from all over the world.
Yes.
Where have you met people from, or who's entering?
So every country. We've got, of course, the United States. We have Africa. We have Sweden, Norway, Germany, Switzerland, Brazil. For any countries I've missed, sorry. They're coming from everywhere because, and Tokyo, Japan, recognizing that the WBFF has spread, so we are now global. So we have our South Africa show, we have our Asia show, we have WBFF Mexico. We are going to have WBFF Caribbean. That's happening in October. So our very first show happening in Barbados. So it is global. It is now worldwide. So if you think about it, every world competition will have more countries, and the level of athletes will be more global. So we have our Facebook presence, and that's where we're able to connect with other pros. We have our own professional WBFF pros private forum. And so that's where we're able to look at each other and add each other as friends. And then when the world actually shows up, or we're at the world, we can actually meet and connect with them.
Right.
But they're coming from everywhere.
Right.
So
amazing. So you really get to, make friends from all over the world.
Exactly.
And we talked about the commitment, obviously how much time it takes to your training, your nutrition prep, and everything like that.
Yeah.
So does it really leave you time to explore any other hobbies or interests, or probably most of your time outside of work is focused on your competition?
So for me, this is my go-to place. There's nothing else that I enjoy doing but this. I remember a couple of years ago, before training, I did some Muay Thai boxing. I enjoyed that as something to do to kind of build up my physique. But in terms of a habit of getting up in the morning and being in the gym and pushing the weights, that for me is the go-to place. Outside of that, maybe the yoga, but I wouldn't call that a hobby. It's part of the maintenance. It's part of the overall portfolio of things to do to stay in shape and to be healthy. But this is it for me. This is the only thing that I enjoy doing. The limitation, of course, is you can't really do much outside of it, especially when you're getting ready for your show. So your time is limited. Your weekends are basically about rest. Right. You're selfish with your time, so there's not much else you are doing besides laundry, housework.
You have to outsource that too.
No, I wish I can. I've done it a couple of times, but it's just the housework. All that stuff has to get done.
Right.
Yeah.
So how's the support from your immediate circle? So obviously a lot of your time is taken up with this, and there's a lot of pressures involved.
Yeah.
But Are other people doing it also? Are your friends competing in this too? Or what's your circle like?
Funny enough, my closest girlfriends are all moms,
Right.
and they're not competing.
Right.
But they have been with me even before I started competing, because since I moved to Toronto, I've always been in the gym, and they've known that. Mm-hmm. So they know that this is something that's
who you are.
Who I am, and this is what I thoroughly enjoy doing. But in terms of my circle, everyone pretty much knows this is me. I've been, again, before moving to Toronto, and even when I was living in Edmonton, I was in the gym since I was 16, and through college, and through university, and my first job in Toronto. So no one can really argue and say that all of a sudden I've picked this up and I've changed my attitude and I'm no longer the person I used to be. This is what I've been doing for a very long time. So they appreciate that this is who I am. It's part of me. It's part of Emeline. And for that reason, they have been quite supportive.
And what are the other things that go into it, aside from the demanding training and the nutrition prep and your organization? What about the mental game and other stressors that go into it?
That's another show. The mental game. So the mental game, thanks to social media. So I had mentioned earlier in 2013, before I knew about the Federation, I wasn't posting updates.
Right.
There were no progress shots. There were no selfies. In fact, I was even encouraged, you should put something on social media, let them know that you're going to compete. I didn't know anything. And for me, that was the best prep in that state of mind, because I didn't have the desire to continually check and compare. And I think the biggest mental block that I've had to overcome is comparing yourself.
Right.
And it's only as of last year, working with my coach, that I remembered that I'm tall.
Yeah.
I've known I've been tall since I was born, but I've been looking at these pictures for years and wondering, can I get legs like that? Can I get the glutes? Can I get those biceps? I'm like, this is who I am. I'm 5'9". Why am I comparing myself with the girls who are 5'2", 5'4", 5'5"? And so my biggest hurdle outside of getting to the sleep regime is the mental game, and making sure that mentally I'm in check. And whether it's through whatever faith you follow, just keeping yourself grounded. Yes, your competition is yourself. It sounds kind of cliche, but it is. But just focusing on what you have to do to bring the package to the stage that you can be proud of. And so having a great coach that can remind you that part of the prep is the mental game and the mindset. And so I think since my last show and going into this show, I've had to overcome a lot of hurdles, and those hurdles were overcome because of my mindset and to push forward. And so now I feel like I'm at a good place now, and making sure that the mindset is in check at all times.
What do you think are some of the pluses you're bringing to the stage as a tall competitor? You're 5'9". You know, there's attributes in every size and shape. So what do you think are some of the great things you can bring as a taller competitor?
That's a very good question. I think what I can bring is the level of appreciation. And I'm not saying that shorter athletes have it easier than taller athletes. I don't want to say that, so I'm not saying that. But there's a significant amount of work that comes along with training someone with a long femur and long calves and long arms, long bicep, long tricep. Everything is just long. But if done correctly, it could make the judges aware. Okay, she's 5'9", and fellow contestants or fellow athletes are 5'4", 5'5". But it's bringing that level of that model-esque physique. So if you can imagine someone like a Tyra or a Naomi Campbell, who are amazing on stage, and then you double that with an amazing physique. And so that's what I'm trying to couple, is how do you bring that sense of style and poise and confidence, but on top of that, layer that with the physique. It's a lot of work. And I know that coach has told me and reminded me many times to appreciate my height. So
Absolutely.
I do it, but when
you can't get in a Vicky Secret show if you're,
well, you can't if you're 5'2". You can't be a model in Victoria's Secret and be short. So I'm embracing the height,
right.
And I'm trying to be an example to other models who have the same physique as I am, and say that you can do this as well. I mean, there's a small percentage of us. I'm not the only one who's as tall as I am.
Right.
But the idea is to represent us because we have an advantage. So work with it.
So what kind of things would you say to someone who's getting into the game? They're hearing you, they're seeing other pictures on social, and they say, you know what, I think I could try that, whether they're a mom, whether they're 30, 40, 20.
Yeah.
And they say, you know what, I think I can do that. I can put on a bikini and look great on stage and possibly end up in a top 5 or something, just for the experience.
I would say if you're going to compete and if the finances are there, and if this is your very first time, find a good coach. Find a coach that believes in the things that you do. So for me, it was about healthy, natural preparation in terms of the foods. I didn't want to be on stacks of supplements. That's the first part. Because then the education comes with a strong coach. Find a good support network of people that can encourage you through this journey, because it will be a journey. 3, mindset. So, and the coach will help you through that process, but understand what you're going into. Commit, and don't compare. So when I mean compare, because we know Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, there's opportunities for us to lose sight and focus of what we're trying to do, because there's so much out there that's going to shift our influence and our progress. So commit, but don't compare.
Well, how do you balance that idea of putting yourself out there on social?
Yeah.
Because you do want to share your progress, put
yes.
pictures.
Yeah.
But you don't want to compare so that you're bringing yourself down.
I would encourage anyone who's coming into this game to understand the power of the internet. Those images are permanent. So everyone has a sense of style and confidence. And I've seen some pretty interesting shots that I personally would not display on social media because of what I do as a professional.
Right.
But at the end of the day, remember, if you're going to join the WBFF, regardless of what category, it's about class, it's about style and glamour and poise. And so you want to demonstrate that in how you portray yourself. So you don't want to post pictures that contradict class and glamour and style. So you have to use common judgment when you're out there letting the world see who you are. Yeah.
And this year for the Worlds, it's actually the 10-year anniversary.
Correct.
So can people expect anything special going to see that particular show?
A spectacular show. Paul Dillett and Allison Dillett, who are the founders, are up to a lot. And even the athletes, I think we haven't seen the stage yet. And we'll see it on a registration day. But based on the previous shows and what they've done in the past, it's going to be a phenomenal show.
So if you'd like to catch Emeline take the stage at the WBF Worlds, it's happening this August 26th and 27th at the Sony Center for the Performing Arts.
Yes, it is.
Tickets are available at the box office, or you can check out Ticketmaster as well.
Yes, or you can check out WBFFshows.com for more ticket details.
And if people want to catch up with you on your journey, to follow you along your way, where can they see you?
They can see me on Facebook or on Instagram at Emeline Mellow _WBFF Pro.
Amazing. Thank you for joining us today, Emeline.
Thank you.
And for all our listeners, thanks for tuning in. And be sure to check us out next month for another episode of More to Mom, where we celebrate everything about her.
Thank you.
On the World Wide Web, iLive Radio. The best internet radio station around, iLive Radio, the new social network.